Hello and welcome to the Business Advisory Show. We're here again with Jason Robertson and David Patterson. Welcome, guys.
G'day, John. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. And our topic today that we're going to kick off with is actually Accountants' Big Day Out coming up in November as our first topic. And of course, we're excited for the second year in a row to have Jason coming along as one of our keynote speakers. And this year, we're giving him a lot more license and time on stage to really tell a story about the business, because what I dare I say, what I think you've been able to do over the last couple of years is pretty remarkable. And we're going to come back to David in just a moment as a participant last year and an amazing advocate for Big Day Out that you've become in terms of what you've been doing, and dare I say, not just your business, I wouldn't say turned your life around, but you've got some lovely things to share that we'll come back to, and why this event's so important. Now, what is it first and foremost, Jace? Why is it that yourself and Andy Vanderbeek and, basically anybody that we approach, if they're available from a date point of view, why are the thought leaders willing to donate their time, for goodness sake, and come on the road and for this type of an event? What is it about this event that makes it so, meaningful to you?
Yeah, good question. Look, to be honest, it's a lot about collaboration. I think a long time ago, there was so much of a stigma around competition. Oh, the guy down the road's my competition. I think guys like Andy, myself, and my business partners, the way we think about it now is we can collaborate. There is so much business out there, and our belief is the better that the accounting world is and the advisor world is, the more people, the more small business owners are going to get help and actually have thriving, better businesses, lead to more employment, lead to healthier, happier people. And I think, when you know your purpose and you know your why, and you lead by your values every day and you act and behave that way, it's easy to go, cool, if I can be in a room with hundreds of people that I can touch and help and have conversations with, why wouldn't I want to do that? So getting involved was a pretty clear, easy decision. When you look at your purpose and your values, go, yep, that aligns with how I behave, I'm in, and let's do it. And I think off the back of last year, my networks, my community, the people that I'm now involved with and talk to have grown significantly over the last year, as has my business and as have other businesses around me, because of my experiences on that road trip, on that national tour.
Yeah, I think it is fair to say, isn't it, that people like Chris Hooper were even commenting as we were travelling between city to city, that the downtime together was such an amazing opportunity to really open up and tell a few stories and learn from each other as well.
Yeah, correct. That collaboration behind the scenes as well, like when we head out, for a quiet whiskey at night time, we can actually share some of those war stories. Not that we don't leave anything off the stage, but sometimes it gets a little bit more raw behind the scenes. And then the next one that we go and present, we draw that back out and go, hey, actually, we talked about this the other night, and we think this is an important story to share with the audience. And I think as that road tour, the road show went on, we got deeper and more raw as it went. And then I'm looking forward to round 2 this year with a few familiar faces and a few new ones. And I think the audience is going to have heaps of value to learn from it, and we're excited to cop the questions and cop the critique once we're up there. It's going to be good.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And one of the things we set out to do was to make this a very transparent timeline journey type of discussion for the audience. In other words, it doesn't matter where you are in your journey as an accountant or possibly even a bookkeeper as well. This event would actually show you the next step, because there'd be so many people that have travelled in your footsteps before you that are on stage and sharing. Yeah, what would you say about that?
I think as well the important thing is we're not getting up there saying we're perfect. I think the beauty of it is we get up there and go, hey, we've fucked up. We've made mistakes along the way, and these are where we made the mistakes, and this is how you can learn from that. As well as myself, we've done a lot in 3 years. We've got a long journey ahead of us. So I look to people who have been doing it for 10 or 20 years and go, what can I learn from you? So there is this element of that sharing and collaborating, even if we're up on stage and somebody else in the audience. Afterwards, when we grab a beer at networking drinks, I want to learn from people. And I think it's that beauty of being approachable and being easy to talk to that lets people open up. And you hear some amazing stories of people that have been really struggling, or people that are thriving as well because they've implemented something by looking at the peers. So, I look at John Knight from Business Depot and what he's doing at the moment. I look at Peter Laylor at Blue Rock and a few other guys like that and go, well, that's my benchmark. They're my peers, and how am I behaving that gets me to be more like them? And yeah, it's important to look at your other people in the industry, your competitors, and collaborate? And how do you work together, or start to model the masters?
Yeah, and that's a great point you make. I mean, it's so exciting for us. Last year, Rebecca Mahalik was one of the advisory firms of the year, award-winning. She was on the road with us last year, and yet she's actually effectively joined John Knight, who's one of our keynote speakers this year, which is pretty exciting.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So John will be on the road with us as well, and sharing his amazing story and his one-stop shop, which is pretty awesome. David, you bring a totally different perspective, for our viewers and listeners out there that are, thinking, gee, there are so many conferences on these days, and, which ones do you go to, which ones don't you? Yep. What is it about this event that makes you such an advocate for it, and why you were willing to come on the show to talk about it, given, your experiences and what you've been through over the last 20 years?
Yep. Sure, thanks, John. I think for me, last year, I went to the ABDO last year just off almost a whim. I saw I think you sent through an email, and I looked at it and I thought, I hadn't done anything for a while, so I thought it might be a good opportunity. Also, probably at that stage, it was a good opportunity just to get out of the office for a day and, get away and just relax a little bit. And probably like a lot of accountants, I've been to a lot of seminars and expos and all that type of thing, and you kind of walk away from a lot of them going, you hear it, but you go back and you don't implement, and you kind of go, it's all right for them, they've got this or they've got that, whereas you go, well, I've got this and I've got that, so it's harder for me. So I just went to the ABDO with no great big expectations. I walked away with 28 pages, I'm shaking like a leaf, 28 pages of notes, 28 pages of notes, and it was just a fantastic experience, the people that were talking on stage they came across, like you said, genuine. Like you looked at them and you went, that is a peer of mine. It's not someone that's up here and I'm down here. It's a genuine, they're successful businesses. That's where I want to get to. I want to get to that success. So, and you're right. It was raw. People opened up. I think there were some tears on stage to the one I went to. So, you kind of every single person had a story that I could kind of relate to and go, shit. I've got to start to do some of that stuff. So, 28 pages of notes. I took it away, and probably for the first time ever, actually started to implement off some of those notes. So I went back a week or two later, went back over my notes. And really started to implement some of the stuff that people have been talking about on stage, which is something I'd never done before, and it was just that. I think the big difference for me was it was just a change in the. It just looked like finally there were people on stage that I could relate to, and it was kind of like, well, if they can do it, I can do it. Finally that excuse of, well, it's all right for them because they're in the city, it's all right for them because they've come from a big firm, it's all right for them because of this. It became, hang on, I'm no different to what Jason is, if he can do it, I can do it, which is why the notes became really valuable, I've still got them now, they're in my folder over there now, so I just look at them all the time. It was fantastic, fantastic.
Yeah, thanks David, well done. Just on that, I'm going to come back to Jason and ask him to share. We've got another interview that we did on the fly at XeroCon, literally out in the hallway in the main sponsor area there.
1.5 times. The microphone fault.
Yeah, absolutely. We had tech defaults and also it was all happening. And I think the second half of the audio was actually recorded on my voice recorder on the iPhone. Yeah. So we'll see how that blends together. But
the tech guys are going to have some fun piecing that together. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck, Carla, with that one. But offset a moment ago, what Dave was saying just before Jason arrived, David was sharing with one of our other colleagues what he's been doing this year, because it's almost a year today almost that we ran ABDO last year. We're in November this year, of course. Do you mind just sharing for our audience just how holistic you're approaching things now, as opposed to, it wasn't just a big day out. I guess you've probably joined one of our development programs for yourself as well from a leadership and practice point of view, but what else are you up to? Because I heard boxing and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, so I guess you're right. I've taken it beyond just from a business perspective. So, I'm getting fitter now. I'm a lot fitter than I probably have ever been, and so I'm sort of boxing 5 or 6 days a week now. From a personal point of view, I just feel a lot better within myself, So I'm getting out of bed easier. I'm getting to work. I'm happier. So it's just which then makes everything else easier. You know, I'm not approaching stuff with that with a negative kind of mindset. I'm approaching it from a positive position. So everything just starts to become easier. You know, work becomes easier, dealing with difficult clients becomes easier, dealing with staff becomes easier, and I guess you just become more open to opportunities. Whereas, you know, prior to ABDO and prior to best practice, you know, I was kind of shut off from some of those opportunities, to sort of thinking, again, you know, it's not for me, I can't do that sort of stuff. Whereas the whole thing's just been, you know, from start to finish, just a big improvement for me personally, you know. So, yeah, it's fantastic. And the fitness just makes everything easier, you know. You just can get out of bed, your day's not as long as it used to be. Yeah, it's great.
Serotonin gets you up and about.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, thanks, David. Well done, mate.
No worries.
Jason, some of the things that I've been privileged to, obviously behind the scenes for the whole year gone by, we've been having regular discussion about your business, your strategies and what you're doing. Would you mind just giving a few hints as to some of the great insights and, dare I say, you would call them small wins. Many people out there would say they're pretty big wins along the last 12 months timeline. What are some of the things that people are going to learn about and hear about come November in Big Day Out this year?
Well, good question. Look, I think the story continues about growth. And I think growth over the 3 years of what we've had from, you know, 0 staff to 26 team, the expansion of different services that we're about to make some pretty exciting announcements about. I think next week will be some pretty exciting announcements. Outside of that, I think it's really been about internally how we've grouped everything together and really started monitoring, tracking and measuring to an all new level. Like, you know, the first 2 years we were pretty loose, we were fun, we were those easygoing guys. And then business gets hard. Like when you grow really fast, you cover the cracks. And that was something that Trent Innes said from Xero, the MD of Xero, when he presented at our event. He said, fast growth covers cracks. And I stood in the back of the room and went, you know what? I can understand that. Not that I feel like we've got these big gaping holes in our business, but like everything, you want to get better and you constantly strive for improvement. So for me and the boys, Johnny, Anth, Greg, and now we've got Shelley from Perth, which makes our board more powerful than ever, having Shelley involved. We're just constantly working on those things that, well, what do we need to improve? What system and process doesn't exist that needs to exist? And we're just now really focusing on, that trip to Brisbane, so we were in XeroCon last week and we took 14 of our team. There was 14 of us in total there running around, we were learning, and we gamified the whole trip. We gave everyone tasks they needed to do to achieve points to win a prize. And we've come back and all of a sudden there's a Slack channel that started called Process Improvement Ideas. And then there's a Slack channel that's become Staff Updates. There's a Slack channel, the RBK Book Club. And all of a sudden, these things didn't exist a few weeks ago. And all of a sudden, within a week, we've updated several processes that make our business faster, smoother, and a better experience for our customers. And I look at that and just go, these are the things that people need to be focusing on and sharing. So they're the kind of similar traits that I'll be showing. But I think the timeline and the journey to inspire about how we go about growth and then what happens internally from a tracking and measuring, that's going to be a bit of the underlying tone of what gets shared in November. But yeah, it's been, even from learning, like I'm only a few years into the journey and the amount of stuff I've packed in a couple of years, until you stop and look back and go, wow, we've achieved a lot. It just feels like business as usual. Every day you rock in, you go, how do we get a little bit better? Every day, how do we just improve that little bit better and do something like to help somebody? And yeah, those little process improvements are exactly what I see as going. We look at our firm as a customer service business. We're not in the business of accounting, we're in the business of serving customers. We want to make somebody's life better, and that's why we exist. So if we can focus on that, we had our whole team recite our mission over and over again on one of the days, and they stood there and they, in their groups, they recited our mission. And I sat back going, the more that we can get this ingrained into the team, it means that day to day, when things get a little bit tough, they need to sit back and go, why do we exist? Like, what is my purpose? And that will make getting through the nitty gritty shit stuff a little bit easier because they can see the bigger picture and see the vision of what we're working towards.
Yeah, great advice there and insight as well. I think that the biggest issue that I see and why we want to see all generations, we've actually created 3 avatars for 4 different generations, 20s to 30s, 30s to 40s and so on. And we want them all there at Big Day Out for many reasons. And number one is that a business like Jason's is unlikely to acquire, in my opinion, facilitated a few of these things, another ageing accountancy firm when you can simply just go out and take the field, right? You can just go and win the new business organically, using tech, using marketing, using referrals, and the buzz and the hype and the quality of your brand, right? And I guess let's ask David about this. Why do you think growing the business will not only cover the cracks, but it might even actually deal with the succession issues as well, David? Because succession really needs to come from within to some extent.
Oh, yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I think it does, and I think growing the business, and I think going back and having that understanding what your values and your mission is within the business, and having it ingrained and part of the team, I think that does a twofold thing. It'll make it easier for growth because everyone knows what their part of the business is, and everyone knows what we're trying to achieve. Helping the clients and making their life better. So if you've got that down and everyone's sort of with it and embracing it, then that's going to help with your growth. You're going to get better clients. Then you'll have staff that want to come to work for you. You don't have to go out and try and find and put up with the best one that comes along on the day, which I think probably every accounting business in Australia has have the problem with. You pick whichever one you get just because you've got nothing else. So if you get that vision right and get the right clients coming in and it just makes everything easier, which then just makes succession probably almost just happen, because you're going to get those good staff coming through your business. They're going to want to have a piece of it. They're not going to want to leave. So it just makes that whole process a lot easier. Whereas it sometimes you look back and you think, bloody hell, how am I actually going to get out of here? How am I going to sell my business and retire? So I think the whole thing becomes really important, and to make the process just easier.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I'm very interested to hear both of your comments on this one. Natalie Lennon will be quite provocative in Big Day Out this year because she had equity in an ageing accountancy firm, and she found it stifling and going nowhere. And they weren't listening to her. They really were, she felt like they were just sort of, patting her on, that's okay, go away, leave us alone, don't innovate, don't disrupt. And so ultimately they lost the goose that was going to be their golden egg. They had succession in the can with a, ripping young female accountant partner, and she went out on her own. Why do you think it's so important that the ageing practices get along to ABDO and listen and learn, to that sort of a mindset?
Can I? Yeah, because it's in my head. I think one of the big things that I've learned in the last 12 months from ABDO is that, my business was kind of stagnating, and the main reason it was because of me. I was taking on too much responsibility, trying to do too much myself, and not allowing my staff to actually grab it and run with it. So there was no innovation being done. There was nothing, and we would have lost probably a couple of staff over the journey that could have been the succession plan coming through, but because of exactly what you said, and I don't like to think of myself as an ageing accountant just yet, but it was still me holding them back, and so they left and went somewhere else. So one of the things I've sort of implemented and learnt in the last 12 months is that I'm letting the staff kind of run with something. So if they've got an idea, I just let them go and say, "Yep, you go for it and run with it." And then they just sort of report back regularly on how the thing's going if there's been a slight tweak. But it allows them, and I've seen it already. They just become a bit more empowered, and they're taking the business further than what we would be at the minute if I had maintained my old sort of style. So I think. And that's something it's come directly from ABDO, because you listen to the blokes who are up there talking, and that's what they were talking about. They were letting their team do what they needed to do and sort of got out of the way a little bit, So that, if for nothing else, I would think people to get along to the ABDO just for that purpose, because like I could honestly say in 12 months my business has sort of transformed 100%. I reckon it was just it was just floating along, whereas now it's kind of, it's like you said before, it's a long way to go, but I'm so far ahead of where I was 12 months ago. It's unbelievable, you know, and ABDO sort of started it. So for me, that's, people just got to get along, I reckon. Absolutely.
Fantastic. Jace?
Yeah, look, for me, something that sticks in my mind, and fresh off last night, Mark Burris sat down and talked about his journey with Kerry Packer and some of the things that they had to talk about every month. And the end of their monthly meeting was exit strategy and exit plan. What is my exit and what am I going to do when it's done? I think too many people think short-sighted. They've got their 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 year plan. But really, if you're a 40, 50, 60-year-old accountant, what is the exit plan? Not that a 31-year-old accountant can't have an exit plan too. Like, I've got a pretty good idea of what we want to achieve in the next 10 years and then what it looks like after that. But so people who get along to ABDO who don't have that succession plan, who don't have an exit strategy, need to start getting their mind into that kind of area and going, well, 5 and 10 years flies by. Like, you think about the last 5 years and where it's gone, and you just got to go, maybe I've got to start putting something in place. Because if you're looking at that tier of senior accountants and client managers and you can't identify someone who can run your business when you're not there, you've got some issues. I know, look, I'm fortunate to have business partners, so when one of us goes away, everyone else kind of steps up and looks after your responsibilities, and you come back and it's business as usual. But for those more sole proprietors and smaller businesses or people who don't have anyone else who can do that, you've got to really start finding that. And it's hard. It's a tough market. I mean, I look at Xero and go, they've probably hired 400 really good, like potentially good accountants. They've gone, look at us, we're flashy, we're cool, we've got a fun office, you can wear jeans and a t-shirt. And the accountants who weren't invested and didn't have a purpose and a mission and the values and want to kind of stay in accounting, they went, yeah, that looks like more fun, I'm going to go do that. Yeah. I feel there's a real shortage. I mean, we've got fantastic culture, great vision, great purpose. We advertise ourselves well. We do stuff like ABDO and get ourselves in front of a whole bunch of accountants that are employed at other accounting firms. We put a job ad out and we probably have maybe we don't have as much of a struggle of finding new people as what other businesses would, because we've made it, like, it's still hard though. There's a shortage of really good people that want to be involved. And the ease these days of starting your own business, that's an attraction for some people that just go, man, I'll just do it myself. But then they get a year or two into the journey and go, shit, this is way harder than it looks. So yeah, they get along to ABDO for that idea of what is my exit and what is my succession, and start to learn a few stories of people who have kind of come along the journey who may not have had one. And then because of the lessons they've learnt by going to things like ABDO, they walk away and go, with 28 pages of notes and a year of business improvement, puts you in a totally different area, a totally different realm, playing in a different field.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Well done. And what do you see on the horizon? What do you think maybe the two or three most glaring challenges for particularly accountants and bookkeepers over the next 2 or 3 years?
Okay. Single touch payroll. 50% of businesses have not come on for single touch payroll. So to give the accountant answer of all accounting answers, single touch payroll is going to be a huge opportunity. And then desktop software. So you've got there's no more support for desktop software, but there's still half of the business owners out there that haven't adopted cloud. Yep. I'm part of a government digital champion mentoring program, Digital Champions Project by the Australian government. And I've had so many conversations with business owners who, and I think we've attracted 25 to 45-year-old clients who are already on the cloud. They come to RBK and we love each other and get along well. Having conversations with people who have Recon-hosted accounting desktop software, which was the 2001 version, and are using desktop version of Outlook to run a few $100,000, heating and cooling business. And I'm going, oh, you need to get on the cloud, mate. Like, just scrap that, start fresh on the cloud. No, I don't trust the cloud. It's scary. It's like, whoa. So opportunity is cloud adoption still. Yeah. And we're still only in the kind of really early stages of cloud adoption. Single touch payroll is going to help drive that. And I don't know what the stigma is out there, but there's a stigma around, I'm not registering for that if I don't have to. But I don't think people are getting that. It's compulsory. You've got to be on it. So there's a lot of people who are going to turn around and go, well, how do I do it? And they're going to turn to accountants. So I think there's going to be a big influx of work that didn't exist before for accountants who are tech savvy and promote themselves as cloud advisors and cloud accountants. They're going to be the ones that are really got to be ready for that growth and ready for the phone calls and ready for the online inquiries. So that's my opportunity at the moment. Oh, and so it's single touch payroll and cloud adoption. And the other one is the different services you offer. Yeah. If you're just an accountant, that's fine, but align yourself with people who can do financial planning and mortgage broking and legal. Be the advisor that the person wants to call you and go, who should I go see? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter whether you get a snip of the ticket or a lick of the ice cream or whatever the sayings are. Just help your customer find a good person to do business with. And if you can integrate it all in one, bonus for you. That's my 2 opportunities.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you.
I think I couldn't agree more with a single touch payroll. I mean, the opportunities there are endless. And then, leading on from that, once you get the people onto a cloud-based software, the other opportunities that they start to see that they couldn't see before because of the desktop version, having live data and all that type of thing will be unbelievable, I think, going forward. Also, having just come from XeroCon as well, the add-ons that you can get to a program like Xero. And I just had a demo yesterday with one of my clients who's a restaurant, and we had a demo of Tanda because he is really struggling with rostering and paying and staff getting overtime and when they shouldn't and all that type of stuff. And his initial thought on doing something, because I spoke to him last week and said, I'm going to have a look at these things. He was worried about the cost of it. And I said, look, let's just have a look at it first and see what's going on. We had the demo yesterday, and halfway through the demo, he already realised he was going to save more money than it was going to cost him, and he'd have more control over his staff, so he'd know exactly what was going on, whereas at the minute, he might have an 80% idea, but that 20% is costing him a lot of money, So those opportunities, I think, are just going to be more and more as well as you start to see the opportunities. Which then makes it easier for the business advisory, which from my perspective, I think that's the next big step for accountants. I think we all talk a lot about advisory, and I think every second accountant's got advisory in their name, but none of us really do it. So the opportunities through Xero or Mob, and the add-ons to it to make detailed and accurate assessments about someone's business today, based on what's happened sort of up till today, will be massive, I think, and we've just got to sort of embrace it. I mean, the cloud stuff, it makes compliance easier. It makes all that stuff get done quicker, which then should allow us to really help clients get to where they want to go. We're talking about our succession plan and what we want to achieve over the next 5 or 10 years, but what do they want to achieve? I want to kind of get known as the accountant that was invaluable in getting a business from here to retirement and success, and I think the more we can do that, the better we're all going to be.
Yeah,
yep,
absolutely. And for the non-Xero, non-XPM practices out there, accountants and bookkeepers, we don't want to mislead you to thinking that that's all this is a Xero product flog. It's not. If you're the question now for these guys is, if you are an MYOB or a Handy Tax or Sage user, is it still important to get along to Big Day Out and learn about what you guys are doing, Jason, the Natalies and Chris Hoopers and so forth? Because I think that the biggest issue is if you're not on this particular platform and XPM and so forth, are we kind of resisting the advisory insights that we need to go and get? And I think that might be a real issue.
Yeah, good question. I think, look, when you're a proud, avid lover of a product like a Xero and XPM, you're always going to talk about it and how it helps your business. But I think the underlying lessons of what you learn from that is, what are the key factors that they do that you're looking for? So cloud-based, ease of use, availability, speed of running reports, all those different things. By no means is XPM perfect. It does my head in sometimes, but Xero as a back-end product for our customers makes it easy to work with. But I've got clients on QuickBooks and clients on MyOb that I can just as easily work with as long as we set the parameters and the boundaries of how we work together. In saying that, though, I mean, there's going to be disruption coming for people like a Xero. They're never going to just be the one that everyone turns to. I think Anthony turned around the other day and said, we need to look at this particular software. I think it was called GreatSoft.
Yep.
And, that's the one that all the big four are using, the mid-tiers have turned to. And we're going, well, we got to be aware of these things as they come out. So something like a Big Day Out is we're going to hear about what else is out there. And it's not to say that you have to change if you've got something that works It's making sure that it's working as well as your competitor or your people that you're going to be collaborating against. So, yeah, it's important to just hear what else is out there, but not necessarily, it's not going to be a you need to change or you have to change. It's just make sure it's working and working your way. Systems and processes in place that make it smooth and efficient for yourself, your team, and your customers. But yeah, be aware of what else is on the horizon. Just, as I said, we're XPM and zero users, but we're always making sure that we are leading the pack and that we've got the right software to make our business continue to push forward into the future.
Yeah, thank you. Well done.
Yeah, so we're using Xero for our clients, but we don't actually use XPM at all. So to answer your question, it certainly doesn't stop you going to ABDO. It's he's right. You just see what other people are using, what's out there. You can always go back and say, can I do that with my existing software? And if you can't do it with the existing software, then I guess you've got to look at, do I need to change if that's what I want to be doing, So I think whatever you're using inside your practice doesn't stop you from going out and learning stuff at the day, It's a matter of getting those ideas and going back and seeing how your system can fit around it. And if it can't, then you look at changing perhaps, yeah.
Yeah, well done.
Yep.
Okay, final word. What's your favourite new prospect question or tactic or strategy when you're meeting a new client or prospective new client? What's the primary thing you'd like to try and achieve? Is it a coffee? Is it a meeting in your office? Is it an online Zoom video call to get to know them? Is it get them to fill out a template of a series of questions? Typically, what's your preferred approach?
For us, it's human. It's human, face-to-face contact and just getting a vibe and a feel for each other. I think, out of that initial meeting, what you want to understand is what the potential new client or the prospect is trying to achieve. And the real easy way to nail that down is, what does success look like? Because success is very different for different people. Success might be spending more time with my kids on the weekend. Success might be making $1 million. Success might be selling my business for $100 million. And it is so different. So if you can, in the first meeting or the early stages, learn what success looks like and document that in your internal note-taking system so that you know what that particular client is working towards. If that client wants more time with their kids, you can't have the second meeting and start talking about why you need to increase their revenue and how they should work an extra 10 hours a week, because that's what success looks like to you. So what is success? And then drive your advisory and your relationship around what that success looks like for them, not what success looks like to you.
Yeah, thank you.
I think I'm fairly similar, it's just a slightly different language. So the initial interviews are still it's a face-to-face because it's really I think it's the best way to do it. And just finding out what they're wanting to achieve, why they started their business, what they're hoping to get out of it. And then basing what we can do to help them around that exactly, not trying to say to them, this is what I think you should be doing, but trying to find out from them what they want to do, and then sort of working through that and finding ways to help them. So, and it's not always about money, as you say, some people want to work less, they want to spend more time with the family. I think as a father of two 18-year-olds and a 16-year-old, you learn pretty quick that in a blink of an eye they're just about to leave home, and you kind of go, gee whiz, you look back and you go, could it have been better? So if we can help people spend more time with their family or whatever it is that they want to do, I think that's what we got to look at, and stop saying we can do this, we can do that, we can help you here and there, is to sort of turn the conversation around a little bit.
Yeah, well done. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Big day out. Obviously, we'll see Jason in 4 capital cities, Perth, Sydney, Melbourne and Gold Coast. And respectively, the November 15 is Perth, 19 is Sydney, November 20th is Melbourne. We have a rest day on the Thursday, and get up to the Gold Coast on Friday the 22nd, and we'll have a big party that night on the Gold Coast as well. And we're going to make sure this year that we've got the Bridging the Gap, encouraging sort of keynotes. We'll get some people like David at a state level to come up and do some cameos right around Australia, so that those people that are seeing, accountants and bookkeepers, just thinking, what Jason is achieving and some of the others, Nat, Chris and Andy and everything, might be out of reach. Well, maybe not, because, we've got people on their way. So we'll get them involved as well. So thank you so much for your time today. It's been fantastic. And I'm sure our viewers out there are really grateful for your time.
Our pleasure. Thanks heaps.